Today, Kevin Hart makes $1 million per hour, but as a child, he would lie to neighbors to hide the fact that his father was using crack cocaine. How did this shame transform into the world's greatest source of laughter? This story will show you that your greatest pain might actually be the source of your greatest power. This isn't just a success story. This is proof of how humor can be used as a survival tool, and how the brightest successes can emerge from the darkest moments. If you're ready, let's begin this incredible journey from little Kevin's pain to laughter. July 6, 1979. In one of Philadelphia's toughest neighborhoods, North Philadelphia, Kevin Darnell Hart was born into what seemed like a normal family environment. His father, Robert Hart, was a well-known amateur comedian in the city, and little Kevin would watch his father's stage performances with admiration. "When my dad got on stage, something magical happened," Kevin would later recount. "He made people laugh, and I wanted to be just like him. Back then, I thought my dad was my hero." But when Kevin was just 5 years old, this innocent admiration gave way to a horrific reality. His father, Robert, had become addicted to crack cocaine. This powerful drug was an epidemic that swept through 1980s America, and Kevin's family became victims of this plague. The first signs were very clear. Robert stopped coming home, and when he did, he acted strangely. His eyes were red, his speech was slurred, and sometimes he would wander around the house for days without sleeping. Nancy Hart, Kevin's mother, tried to hide this situation from her children, but little Kevin understood what was happening. "I didn't know why my dad was acting this way, but I could feel that something was wrong," Kevin recounts. "My mom was constantly crying, and I couldn't understand why." The most traumatic moment happened when Kevin was 6 years old. That day, returning home from school, he saw police cars in front of their house. His heart started beating rapidly. Running into the house, he saw the police taking his father Robert away in handcuffs. That night, his mother Nancy sat down and told Kevin the truth. His father was using drugs and had been arrested because of it. After Robert's arrest, the Hart family came to the brink of collapse. Nancy was left alone with 2 children, trying to survive. Money problems were at their peak. They couldn't pay electric bills, and there were days when they couldn't find food. But the real pain came from the reactions of neighbors and other children at school. In Philadelphia, everyone knew everyone, and Robert Hart's situation was talked about throughout the neighborhood. Children would tease Kevin, shouting, "Your dad's a crackhead." Faced with this situation, 7-year-old Kevin developed an instinctive defense mechanism: humor. When children made fun of his father, Kevin started making fun of himself. "Yeah, my dad's so funny. He's so funny that even the police came to watch him," he would say, turning the situation into a joke. "I realized in those days that if I could make people laugh, they would stop making fun of me," Kevin explains. "Humor became my armor. When I was in pain, when I was ashamed, when I was scared, I would make jokes." He started using the same strategy at home. When his mother cried, Kevin would make funny sounds and silly movements. When he saw a smile appear on Nancy's face, Kevin became even more motivated. "My mother's smile meant everything to me," Kevin says. "When she smiled, it was as if everything returned to normal. In that moment, I felt like I was healing our family." He also became the class clown at school. Teachers would scold him and send him to the principal, but Kevin didn't care, because the other children in the class were now laughing at his jokes instead of making fun of him. When Kevin was 10 years old, his father, Robert, was released from prison. But this wasn't the happy ending Kevin had hoped for. Robert hadn't changed. He was still using drugs and had lost even more control this time. The hours he spent at home were tense for Kevin. Robert would become paranoid, start fights out of nowhere, and sometimes use violence. Nancy tried to protect her children again, and Kevin tried to ease this tense environment with humor. "I didn't know what I felt when I encountered my dad," Kevin confesses. "I loved him because he was my father, but at the same time I hated him because he was destroying our family." One night, while Kevin was lying in his bedroom, his father Robert came to his room. His eyes were red, his speech was slurred. He sat down next to Kevin and said, "Son, I'm a bad man. You should never be like me." These words had a profound impact on Kevin's mind. That night, lying in his bed, he thought, "Dad might be a bad man, but I'm going to be a good man, and I'm going to make people laugh while doing it." Robert disappeared again the next day. This time, months passed, and he didn't return. Kevin, his brother Robert, and their mother Nancy were left alone. During this period, Kevin's sense of humor developed even further. He was no longer just making jokes to defend himself, but also to make others happy. At school, in the neighborhood, everywhere, he tried to make people laugh. "I realized that humor has magical power," Kevin says. "It could make people forget their pain, make them happy for a moment, and I could create that happiness." In high school, Kevin joined the school theater club and got on stage for the first time. He performed a small comedy skit, and everyone in the hall burst into laughter. At that moment, Kevin understood how he would spend the rest of his life. In 1999, when Kevin was 20 years old, he participated in an open mic night at the famous Laugh House Comedy Club in New York. This was the first step in his transformation into a professional comedian. His first performance was a disaster. The jokes he prepared didn't work, he stuttered due to stage fright, and the audience got bored. Kevin experienced complete disappointment backstage. Walking home that night, I asked myself, "Should I quit this business?" Kevin recounts. But then I realized, I had been making people laugh my whole life. One night's failure couldn't destroy this talent. In the following weeks, Kevin continued to get on stage at different comedy clubs. He got a little better with each performance. He began developing his own style, a style that told stories by turning his own traumas and fears into comedy. He talked about his father's drug addiction, but he did it while making the audience laugh. He talked about his own short height, childhood fears, and family dramas, but he presented everything in a humorous way. "My biggest discovery was this: if you can make fun of your own pain, that pain loses its power," Kevin says. "A child who makes fun of his father's situation is no longer suffering, he's getting stronger." In 2001, a talent scout who watched Kevin's performance offered him the opportunity to perform at bigger clubs in Boston. Kevin accepted this offer and took the biggest risk of his life, leaving his safe environment in Philadelphia and jumping into the unknown. The first months in Boston were difficult. He performed at small clubs for little money. Sometimes he only made $20 to $30 per night. But Kevin didn't give up because he had found a purpose. In 2002, Kevin moved to Los Angeles. Like thousands of young people dreaming of Hollywood, the big city first roughed him up. He lived in a small apartment and made ends meet by delivering pizzas. During the day, he delivered pizzas. At night, he performed at comedy clubs. Most nights, he performed in small venues with only 5-10 people. But Kevin acted energetically every time, as if it were his last performance. "Being in Hollywood wasn't easy," Kevin recounts. "Thousands of people had the same dream, and most of them failed. But I had a different motivation, the motivation to become a successful man from a child without a father." In 2003, the big opportunity came. Kevin got a small role on famous comedian Dave Chappelle's Show. This was his first big break on television, and Kevin didn't waste this opportunity. His performance on the show caught the attention of television producers. Following that, he was offered a small role in the movie Scary Movie 3. Kevin had stepped into cinema. "I only had a few minutes of screen time in the first movie, but this was university for me," Kevin says. "I learned to work with big stars, how to behave in front of cameras, and the Hollywood system." In 2004, his own stand-up special, I'm a Grown Little Man, was released. This program perfectly exemplified Kevin's autobiographical comedy style. His relationship with his father, childhood traumas, height complex, everything became comedy material. The program was very well received and became a turning point in Kevin's career. He was now a nationally recognized comedian. In 2005, while Kevin was rising in his career, he received an unexpected phone call after 25 years. His father, Robert Hart, had called Kevin and said he wanted to meet. Robert was 55 years old at the time and was a man who had lost his battle with drug addiction. His health was deteriorating, he had lost his family, and he had nothing left. The reason he called Kevin was simply to apologize. "I can't describe what I felt when I heard my father's voice," Kevin says. Anger, pain, longing, curiosity. Everything was mixed together. All the emotions accumulated over 25 years exploded at the same time. Kevin decided to meet with his father in California. Robert was just a shadow of his former self. He looked old, appeared sick, and carried the weight of regret. In their meeting, Robert told Kevin how proud he was of him for being his son. He said he watched him on television and in movies, and followed his successes. "Son, I ruined your life," Robert said. "But you gave yourself everything I couldn't give you. You're a strong man, and I'm proud of you." This conversation was a turning point for Kevin. The anger he had harbored for years suddenly turned into understanding. His father was also a suffering human being. Addiction was a disease, and Robert was also a victim of this disease. "That day, I forgave my father," Kevin says. "Not just him, but I also forgave myself. The anger and pain I had carried for years ended that day." Robert and Kevin began meeting regularly for the remaining few years. Kevin provided financial support to his father and helped him reconnect with life. In 2010, Robert Hart passed away. Kevin gave a funny speech at his father's funeral because he knew his father would want to see him laughing. After reconciling with his father, Kevin's career rapidly took off. It was as if, after the heavy burden inside him was lifted, his creativity was set free. In 2009, Kevin Hart's Seriously Funny stand-up special was released, and this program made Kevin a superstar nationwide. The program became one of the most watched comedy specials on Netflix. During the same period, Kevin starred in the movie Think Like a Man. The film was a huge box office success, and Kevin's cinema career officially began. "After 2010, my life completely changed," Kevin says. "I was no longer performing just in comedy clubs, but in stadiums." In 2013, in the concert film Let Me Explain, Kevin performed in front of 30,000 people at Madison Square Garden. This was a historic record for a comedian. Behind Kevin's success was a very systematic approach. He wasn't just doing comedy, he was also making smart business decisions. He founded his own production company, Heartbeat Productions, and took control of his content. "The most important lesson I learned from my father was this: control must be in your hands," Kevin says. "My father had lost control of his life to drugs. I would never let anyone take my control." In 2015, Kevin Hart What Now? Special was watched by more than 50 million people worldwide. Kevin was now a recognized star not only in America but worldwide. The same year, he co-starred with Ice Cube in Ride Along. The film grossed $154 million and proved that Kevin was a movie star. From 2016 onwards, Kevin Hart was not just a comedian, but was building an entertainment empire. Under Heartbeat Productions, he began producing series, films, and podcasts. He was both producer and star of the reality show Real Husbands of Hollywood. Kevin also built his own social media empire. With more than 100 million followers on Instagram, Kevin made millions of people laugh with every post. "Social media became a huge stage for me," Kevin says. "I could now connect with millions of people every day, not just in theaters." The car accident he experienced in 2017 brought a different perspective to Kevin's life. Kevin, who returned from the brink of death, remembered how precious life was. "After the accident, I realized that my real mission is to make people laugh," Kevin says. "Money, fame, success, these are just tools. The real goal is to see smiles on people's faces." In 2019, he reunited with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in Jumanji: The Next Level. The two films together grossed $1.7 billion. Kevin's 2020 stand-up special, Zero Faffs Given, lifted the spirits of millions of people during the pandemic. The program perfectly exemplified the theme of the power of humor in difficult times. "During the pandemic, I realized that people need humor more than ever," Kevin says. "Humor is the way out of despair." Today, at 44 years old, Kevin Hart is the undisputed king of the comedy world. According to Forbes, Kevin, who earned $59 million in 2019, is the world's highest-paid comedian. But for Kevin, real wealth is in the family he built and the positive impact he created. He has a happy marriage with his wife Eniko and has 4 children. He spends quality time with each child separately and gives them what he couldn't get from his own father: unconditional love and support. "My father taught me how not to be a father," Kevin says. "I teach my children how to be a father." Kevin's Laugh Out Loud digital platform gives opportunities to new generation comedians. Kevin turns his own success into a stepping stone for others. I was lucky because I healed my pain with humor, Kevin says. Now my goal is to help other people heal their pain too. Kevin Hart's story is not just a comedy success, but also a personal development story. It's the story of a human being who transformed trauma into power, pain into humor, and anger into love. Kevin's daily routine is still very disciplined. He wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning, exercises, has breakfast with his family, and starts work. Despite being 44 years old, his energy is as much as young people in their 20s. The secret to success is simple, Kevin says. Work hard, never give up, and laugh at every opportunity. Kevin Hart's story is not just one comedian's success story. This is the story of the power of the human spirit. It's proof that the brightest smiles can emerge from the darkest traumas. What about your story? Maybe you too have experienced painful experiences in the past. Maybe you too have struggled with family dramas. Maybe you too have fought with shame and anger. But Kevin's story shows us this. Every pain can be transformed into power. The main principles that changed Kevin's life are: 1. Transform your pain into power. Kevin turned the humor talent he developed as a child with father issues into a career. 2. Turn your defense mechanisms into talents. The humor he used to defend himself as a child later became his greatest weapon. 3. Make peace with the past. Kevin couldn't find real happiness until he reconciled with his father. Forgiveness is the way to free yourself. 4. Keep control in your hands. Kevin always kept control of his own life because he saw his father lose control. 5. Serve others. The more people Kevin made laugh, the more successful he became. 6. Never give up. Kevin failed on his first stage, but never gave up. Success belongs to those who persevere. Kevin Hart says today, if life knocks you down, get up from there and turn that fall into a funny story. After people laugh, you'll be stronger too. When this video ends, ask yourself this question. What is the defense mechanism I developed against my pain, and how can I turn it into power? Remember, Kevin Hart was once a child without a father, living in shame. But he turned this pain into the most beautiful thing in the world, laughter. What power will your pain transform into? As Rise Stories, we will continue to bring you such inspiring stories every week. Because we know that every person has potential inside them, they just need to hear the right story that will bring out that potential. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and don't forget to share your own transformation story in the comments. As Kevin Hart says, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to those events. What reaction will you give today?